Hi everybody, thanks very much for joining, and thanks Lydia for organising the webinar with Momentum. My name is Paul Billette. I'm the CEO for Dataline, and joining me today also is Mark Whelan, who's the CTO. You've only got my picture up there, but Mark's here with me to handle all the technical requirements that might come through. So Dataline, I just wanted to give a brief introduction and then just get into some slides. But should only take 25 minutes of your time. So Dataline, if you haven't heard of us before, we've got 30 years of experience in payables, payments, and financial reconciliation, and started off in actual bank EFT transfers, check production, and reconciliation platform. And believe it or not, that platform still operates today in a number of our major banks. And then we developed about 15 years ago into accounts payable processing. And today we have well over 100 customers, more than sort of probably 50,000 suppliers, and we're doing around 1.2, 1.3 million invoices a year through that platform. But we're still a small business. We're based in Sydney, but we cover Australia and New Zealand, and we've got some aspects in Asia. But there's about 15 of us here. So I think being a small business, we understand small business, and we know what's important and how to get these projects up and running really quickly and make a difference to our customers. My background personally, I've just been with Dataline for about a year, where I was doing some consulting and then came in as the CEO. And before that, I was with another business process outsourcing company for about 15 years. So I've probably been in the business there 15 years, and before that in supply chain. And I'll just get Mark to introduce himself in 2 minutes, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so my name's Mark Whelan. I'm the CTO here at Dataline. I've been at Dataline 18 of those 30 years, and prior to that, my sort of experience is more R&D development, where I was the software development manager for the SEEPS trading system, for the stock exchange in previous life, and also a company called Austraclear back in the late 80s, early 90s, where we provided the money market clearinghouse system to all treasury departments of bank and financial institutions.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. All right, so today we're just going to cover the Dataline solution, briefly on the challenges that a lot of us are facing, the solution that we could offer, some of the reasons why you might want to look at this, and the process of how that works, and just at the end summarise just really how we can turn those payables and then into an actual fact some profits. So let's get into it. I suppose I should say we'll probably take questions at the end, unless you want to chime in, and feel free if you do, but we'll just whip through these and then ask for any questions. So I suppose our story is really about having three key things in the market. The first is being able to digitize documents, and particularly obviously invoices, but our pedigree is in that digitization, and we have what they term a full service bureau, which basically means you have all of those nice software tools like OCR and artificial intelligence and machine learning and all of those acronyms, but you combine that with what we term human validation. So it runs through a whole lot of software. The document that comes in, you make a digital image of that, and you extract the data. But if you just rely on the software, even though it's getting better and better, it's still not going to give you the high 90s or 100% accuracy. And so we combine that software with an element of human intervention, so that we can really achieve the 99s and 100% accuracy levels, to ensure that the data that we're then using in the systems is accurate. And we combine that, the bureau, with then our virtual portal. And the virtual portal can run accounts payable, purchase orders and some expenses. And inside that portal, and we'll get into this in a little bit more detail soon, is that you're able to make payment, produce a match of an invoice to a PO. You're able to approve or manage exceptions or workflow the invoice for approval. And you can also create a finance requirement around that invoice. So we're able to digitize, we're able to virtualize, and then what we produce is this community of a lot of buyers, customers, and their suppliers. And through having this process, it really creates a very accountable process in receiving an invoice, ensuring that that invoice is accurate, it has the right approvals, and then goes through for payment. And once you've got that process in place, it really allows you to then explore finance options around those payables if you wanted to, but also explore other digitization areas like business intelligence and procurement and document automation. So we won't cover in that area too much today. We'll be focusing more around that payment side, but just to go through it, we've got digitalization, virtualization, and then this community that can leverage those processes to become more digital in the future. So what our mission is really combining the power of those things, the technology bureau, the portal, the gateway, and achieving automated financial processing. And we deliver that digitization through really a simplification and standardization model, which we'll go into in a little bit. And we're able to transform those businesses and the profits around accounts payable by doing that. And our purpose and why we really exist is that we do believe that financial processing shouldn't really be that complicated. We believe that business transformation can occur through automation. And we believe in the power of simplification, standardization, and what that can achieve, and that our customers can profit from this accounts payable automation. So just as a summary introduction, we've got a bureau approach to the collection of the invoicing and the scanning. We have a workflow and approval for non-PO invoices. We've got the ability to match two-way to a PO or three ways to a PO and a good receipt. And we get that image of the invoice, and that comes back into Mile. And we've got this ability to extend into further digital programs. This is a slide just illustrating some of the major challenges that traditional accounts payable processing creates for businesses. So there's still, believe it or not, paper invoices out there, and it's whether the client is already just scanning them themselves or they're just being sent in the post still. And so there's still a lot of that happening right through from SME to enterprise. We've got a lot of manual data entry, which is an inefficient process. We're then manually routing those invoices for approval, probably using email, and that creates lost or missing invoices. We have a decentralized approach to invoice receipt. There's always a number of discrepancies, and it's the ability to capture any on-time discounts that suppliers might provide. And of course, one of the big bugbears is always duplicate payments. You obviously don't want to pay suppliers twice. And all of those things usually come around in a non-automated process around accounts payable. So these are some of the challenges, and different size industry businesses are seeing different effects of that. But all of us are probably experiencing some of that over our business. So the way that Dataline creates its view is that you have this one customer view into our accounts payable portal, and it then has this supplier and buyer exchange. So where, as the customer, you receive the invoices, and then your suppliers liaise in that environment to supply the invoices to us, so that allows you to approve and put through for payment. And then we have a payment portal allowing different finance options, which I will go into a bit later. And then underpinning that is our product that we call Links, which has been around for and developed for the 30 years that Dataline's been in existence. And this is just where we can close the loop on a lot of transactions happening inside the portal around reconciliations and receipts, so that we can get closed loop transactions. And what we're trying to do is trying to give a solution around that whole Office of Finance area. So we want to solve automated accounts payable, but then we have some expense modules, certainly out-of-pocket expenses we can handle within our accounts payable processing. We can offer financing if the customer would like that, and then we can also create purchase orders if a customer requires that. So really covering the whole area of the finance office. So some of the reasons why you might want to look at this is that we gain virtualization of our payables, and what that really means is that you're not physically constrained, and obviously with the environment of the last year, this is pretty important, but essentially by virtualizing the process and allowing someone like Dataline to process them, we can receive the invoices from anywhere. We can scan those, obviously make them a digital image. We can put them into the portal. That's in the cloud. It's online. You're able to access that whether it's on the phone, from your home, in the field, or from the office. So it really allows you not to be tied in to an office location, but still allowing the business processing of accounts payable to function. You also gain visibility of your liabilities, and you're able to achieve real-time cash management. So on a daily basis, you can see what is owing to your suppliers through the portal. You gain this remittance visibility if you use our payment processing, and that just closes the loop. So when a payment is made, we can gain that visibility. Obviously, gaining financial discipline and control leads to good auditability, accuracy, and data visibility. Overall, you get lower processing costs, you get some efficient processes, allowing you to improve that decision making, and we eliminate duplicate payments. We have a process where we can recognize if we've already received an invoice, it will be flagged, and we're able to check that and eliminate the duplicate payment, or duplicate invoice, I should say. We can gain access to some business funding through the accounts payable if a customer's like to do that, and the further automation solutions available. So just plugging what the difference with Dataline is, we've got integrations already in place for MyOb, whether that's AccountRight, EXO, or Advanced, and they already exist. So that really helps the onboarding process and our ability to turn around a project quickly. And if things are pretty standard, we should be able to get you up and running within sort of 30 days. We obviously manage all of that OCR technology, and we are able to then achieve straight-through processing, which is essentially no human intervention. And we can do purchase order matching, both in a two-way sense and a three-way sense. And we're trying to aim for 95% no human touch, and trying to achieve those levels for our customers. It supports automation of GL codes, so if you're getting particular invoices coming in that relate to a particular GL code, we can connect that and automatically get the GL coding created for approval. And we've got workflow approvals, which essentially allows you to approve an invoice through, you might have a certain limit that you can approve to, and you need to then forward the invoice for somebody else to approve it at a higher level. And we can cater for all of those scenarios. Mark will go into that in a second, just in terms of the actual process. We can store the invoices. We have a per transaction pricing model, so you're basically getting charged as you your volume dictates. We get this installation into 30 days. We basically use what we term a coaching approach to the implementation, and that's really where we obviously have some documentation that we need to complete, but we really work with you to complete that. We just find that it works a little bit quicker if we're there answering those questions, working through that documentation to bring any of those processes that you need documented out, and then we run a joint training sessions and get you up and running as quickly as possible. We then got a support mechanism by our experts that help you once we're up and running and live. So Mark's just going to take you through the process in a bit more technical detail.
Good morning, everyone. I'll just quickly sort of run through the end-to-end process of what happens when we receive an invoice and the processing steps and the automation steps that we have, which results in an invoice posting back into MYOB ready for payment. So the interface that Paul alluded to, we call it a sync. It's a two-way sync that's been developed. And in terms of two-way, we pull down what we would call master data. So we're going to connect to MYOB EXO and pull down the master data being the suppliers, general ledger codes, jobs, these jobs, inwards goods receipts, which we use to then match to invoices. And the same thing happens in the advanced mode. As you guys probably know, some of those dimensions in terms of coding are very similar. So we pull all that information down. And then once an invoice is either approved or it's matched if it's relating to a purchase order, the interface posts it back ready for payment. So typically, if we're looking at a purchase order scenario, that a purchase order is raised in the accounting system in MYOB itself, that's sent off to the supplier ships the goods or the services, and then it's receipted in the accounting system. So this is key to us. So our assumption of trying what we call a three-way match is assuming that the purchase order is raised, and that the goods have been or services have been received and receipted in the system. This then allows us, so we know the purchase order's there, we know we've got the goods, i.e. we're going to pay, and we've already gone through some spend control in that procurement process. That enables them for the email of the invoice to come typically to the client, and they on-forward that to us into the bureau, where it goes through the digitisation process, so typically using OCR. And then once we've digitised it, it's been through our human verification, it comes into the portal. If there is an inwards goods receipt in the system, and we've configured the system for what we call the three-way match, if that matches up, so the invoice matches to the receipt, we've got a straight-through process. So we call that auto match. We match those together, no human touch in terms of the process. But as a part of that process, we're obviously still validating. We're checking for suppliers, checking for duplicates. All those validations are happening. But if all those validations pass, I'll just keep shooting through here. Then they match. And in the case of where it's a non-PO invoice, then they're routed off for approval. So it'll run through and run out to managers or project managers within the business for approval. Coding occurs in that process. Once the invoice is approved, it happens. There is the option for anywhere a three-way match hasn't happened, and there needed to be manual adjustments to the invoice and receipt process, what we call a manual changes. They can also be approved, and then the invoice is then loaded into EXO and approved, ready for payment. And typically that interface is occurring on a daily basis. This allows the finance team to be able to pay with confidence and gain benefits, as Paul sort of alluded to. Once you have that invoice ready for payment, and that's typically what we're trying to achieve. We're not just trying to get it into the ledger for someone to review. We want to get it in there, fully approved, fully coded, fully matched to any goods receipt if it's purchase order related. So it's now ready for payment, which means you can start to look at some payable financing options going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Right, and just getting to the end, but just to go into a little bit more detail on that. So if we automate our payables, we can really profit from those efficient processes, the ability to put everything virtual and get visibility of our liabilities. If we want to finance those payables, there is a way to do these things and actually profit from it. And I can go into more detail if you're interested on a one-on-one basis. But essentially, there's three sort of areas that you concentrate on financing. And you might have a invoice that's payable, and you can use a credit card to pay that invoice. And I know that sounds pretty simple, but where the process is going is you can use a credit card that you may have existing already in your business to pay, and you can pay a supplier regardless of whether they take credit card or not. So essentially, it allows you to open up the ability to pay any invoice by credit card, regardless of whether the supplier takes credit card or not. And it's basically done through an EFT transfer through the system. So that's one opportunity. And the other is you've got supplier financing and trade financing. And supplier financing is often where suppliers will provide you a discount if you pay early. And today there's many examples of this sort of happening. But one example that I know recently was a construction business, and they had some very large invoices, and the invoice was for around $300,000. It was fairly significant, but it allowed for early payment discounts. And just to keep the numbers mathematically easy for me, let's say that was 10%, and so there was a $30,000 discount provided if they were able to pay quickly. And through the financing mechanism, this client could actually go to the financing institution and actually finance that payment. And so they did that. They received a $30,000 discount. The financing cost $15,000, and so they still paid to terms, but the finance company paid early, then they paid the finance company, and they still made $15,000 in the process, and they didn't actually affect their cash flow. And then there's trade finance, where you may be buying from overseas suppliers, and often if you are, you know that you've got to pay for the goods, often before they're even manufactured or partly paid, and then certainly before they're shipped. And with today's logistics system going on, it can be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 days before your goods will even arrive back into your warehouse. And there's the ability to raise finance and trade finance where you'll pay overseas the manufacturers, and you'll get the benefit of 100 days or 150 days finance over that, so you can get the product into market and then sold before you're actually due to pay. So there's a number of scenarios there that you can use to profit from automating your accounts payable. So there's probably a fair bit to take in there, but I think just as a recap, essentially Dataline is here to automate accounts payable processing, and there's a lot of benefits to the organisation by doing that. And we've got that experience of 30 years, and we'd be keen to talk to anyone who's looking to implement the MyOps solution or already has one implemented and want to add on an accounts payable automation process. And we can either organise to have a one-on-one session with you, We can also help with any working capital requirements that you may have. And I think through Momentum, we've been able to organise a early discount voucher for March and April if you were to sign up, just to allow a bit of an incentive to get us up and running. So happy to take any questions that you may have. Are we still there?
I got one.
Yep.
The image of the invoice, is that image updated in the MyOb file for the supplier?
So the image.
So do I have to always go into the Dataline portal?
So if you're an EXO client, we don't push the image back. It's recorded in our system. If you're an MYOB Advanced, it would be in our portal, but we also push the invoice image back into Advanced through the API.
Okay. Excellent.
It's always obviously difficult to ask questions through these webinar sessions, but Lydia, do you have anything further, or is that all okay?
Yeah, if that's okay. If we have multiple Excel files, do we need multiple Dataline setups, or can one push back to multiple Excel files?
Yeah, so if we're talking EXO and they've got multiple instances or databases of EXO, because they've got multiple entities, is that what we're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay, so our interface and solution can support up to 6 different, 6 additional, if you like, 6 databases out of the box. So it's just configured through the interface there. And we sort of set up, we have the concept of multiple accounts. So in our solution, we almost set up 6 separate accounts, but they can all be accessed through the one user account. And then you select which one of those accounts or EXO databases you wanted to operate against.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. Well, I think we're getting pretty close to the time, and but it would be, we'll probably myself or Lydia will reach out and just talk to you individually and just see if you're interested in taking the next step, and we can have a one-on-one session with you and just understand your specific requirements and tailor a solution for you. But we'd be certainly keen to do that.
Thanks, Paul. And just to let you all know, we will send you all a recording just as a recap from this morning, and then Paul can be in touch and gauge your interest or your feedback, and we'll take it from there. But thanks so much. That was really great, Paul and Mark.
All right. Well, yeah, I really appreciate your time, and have a great day.
Thanks. See you guys. Enjoy Wednesday.
Thank you.